SADC is today set to convene an extraordinary meeting in Harare, Zimbabwe, to discuss the crisis in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. President Cyril Ramaphosa will lead the South African delegation. Well, for more on this story, I'm joined in studio by Khayelihle Khumalo. Thank you very much, Khaya, for joining us. So this meeting is taking place later in the day. What can we expect to come out of it? Of course, there's a discussion about maybe withdrawing the troops out of the DRC.
Well, that's right, Nombo. Quite a lot of expectations for this particular meeting, especially because, I mean, when you look at the SADC mission in the DRC, you look at when the leaders met in Zimbabwe, where they called for the extension of the meeting. But obviously, the whole issue around whether is it going to be a withdrawal, is it going to be the reinforcement of the mission itself, but also a very restive part of Congo where a lot is still happening. As much as they say the situation is quiet, you still do have the sporadic incidents. Just a short while ago, my colleague Sophie Mokwena spoke to the DRC's communications minister, was saying that the situation is still very untenable in Goma, where the conditions are still unbearable, where also the civilians are still really just facing all sorts of challenges when it comes to the humanitarian situation. But also, most importantly for the SADC leaders, will be to ensure that instruments like Luanda process led by the Angolan president, João Lourenço, are they going to revive that in terms of the resumption of the talks, allowing for a permanent ceasefire in that part of Congo, especially because it's been a challenge for SADC for some time.
It was interesting to listen to a Rwandan minister on Clement's show last night, and also to listen to our international relations minister, Ronald Lamola. What did you make of the different versions of how they see things that are taking place in the DRC?
A very fascinating situation, Numpa, but I suppose now I think there's an indication from the two sides that what is important is for peace. But for the Rwandan authorities, what has been their standpoint is that they call it a defensive measure, where they say their troops will continue to be at the border. But obviously there was a bit of a, not a very clear response, whether are they inside the DRC territory, are they going to withdraw, what's going to be the situation. And for South Africa also maintaining that position that for them it's the issue of peacekeeping. It's quite important for the DRC to be a very stable country. This is a very important country within the SADC region, but also looking back into that previous meeting by the East African community, where there was a very clear indication that we need a very joint meeting for the leaders from East Africa, Southern Africa, especially because you do have the Southern African mission that is deployed in the DRC. But what is really concerning at this point is, just getting the sides from the M23, where they say now they're targeting Bukavu, which is the second largest city in the eastern parts of DRC. But also you do have the administration of President Tshisekedi saying they want to recapture what has been taken by M23. So you can really see that the whole issue around dialogue or just negotiation, it's still going to be a very challenge for these parties. But also, again, the Congolese authorities say they will make sure that they will have a representation at the SADC meeting. Yeah,
and to come back to your point, at the end of the day, it's the civilians who suffer the most with all of this.
That's right, especially because prior to these skirmishes and, the incursion by M23, already the picture was very dire in the eastern parts of Congo. The United Nations, for example, warning that over 500,000 people are displaced, and you have over 7 million people in the eastern parts of Congo desperately needing aid. So in this particular instance where the Goma airport is dysfunctional, so it's really impeding that particular process and really exacerbating a very dire situation. But also the SADC leaders, they've pointed out that the really expansion of M23 in terms of the DRC territory, it's a violation of the international law, also the sovereignty of the DRC and their territorial integrity as well.
Khaya, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much for your contribution. As always, my colleague there, Khayelihle Khumalo.